Like, let's say there's a pool that has to be filled with 100 buckets of water. You could break it down into an eyedropper if you need to of what you're going to focus on, but 100 buckets of water still has to get in the pool for it to be full. It's a mental approach that can break down very complicated issues or insurmountable problems you might be facing into something that you can work your way through. Mm-hmm. And it's the most powerful tool that I've ever used in my life. I used it, I got in trouble early on in my military career. Same thing, like a horrible place, and you have to survive this catastrophe and work your way through it. But you have to work your way through it a step at a time. The divorce, what happened to me in the hospital. I look back at the hardest things I've ever done in my life, and it's not, people really focus on neck down muscles. You really need to focus on the neck up ones. Because I went back as a BUDS instructor for 18 months. And I mean, you take so many physical tests before you even start training. Like if you can make it to the first day of training, you physically have what it takes to graduate. It's not the muscles below, it's the muscles below your neck that do just fine.
They're fine.
The one that just trips people up is the one above their neck, between their ears. I mean, I'm telling you, physiologically, these students are fine. They just quit.
And a lot of that quitting's coming from looking too far in the future.
It was my number one weapon as a BUDS instructor. So you go through as a student, and when people quit, you don't see them anymore because training continues and you're part of the curriculum that's ongoing. As an instructor, you actually spend a good amount of time with the students, and you can ask them, "Hey man, like, what's going on? Why'd you quit?" And they're in a really shitty emotional state. And I tried to be, gentle with the question, but I was legitimately curious, like, why did you decide to give up? And there were a few versions of the answer, but the answer itself was, I found myself in a place emotionally where I was overwhelmed, and whatever it is that the instructors were asking of me, I convinced myself that I was not going to be able to do it for as long as they wanted me to do it. So they quit.
They're not going brick by brick.
Nope. They were focusing on not where they were and what the next step is they needed to take. They were focusing on where they were and how far they were from their goal. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I understood that, I was able to fuck people up.
Start talking about
just time.
2 weeks from now.
Time was the only, in SEAL training, you got cold water, cold-ish, depending on the month. It's a little bit colder in the winter. Sand, telephone poles, boats, like very rudimentary objects. An obstacle course, there's daily and weekly things like a run, a swim, the obstacle course, all the physical evolutions in between. You can mess with the students a little bit outside of Hell Week with restricting sleep, but not a lot. You can't really mess with their food. And people would try to focus on those tools. So you guys can have all that. I don't think I yelled a single time when I was an instructor. I would just go up and talk to students. Catch them on like a Monday night of a Hell Week. I'm like, dude, we just started Hell Week 4 hours ago. Just totally lying to them right out of the gate. Like, I'm on shift every night. And you know what? I'm going to come find you every night. And I noticed that you're unable to stand up straight because you're so hypothermic. Yeah. Do you think you can do this for 9 more days? Meanwhile, Hell Week's only 5 days long, right?
Just getting in their head.
You can see it.
Yeah.
It destroys them. So reverse engineer that as a person and become completely unbreakable.
Rep by rep, foot by foot.
If it can destroy people, right? Like BUDS is a laboratory of why people quit. Everybody who goes there, not everybody, that's far too broad. The vast majority of people that go there would tell you that there's nothing that you can do that will get me to quit. I'm going to graduate, and this has been my dream for a lifetime. Go onto Google and just put into Google helmets underneath the bell in BUDS training compound, and you will see hundreds of them. So if you can identify why they're quitting, reverse engineer that shit and make yourself as close to bomb-proof as humanly possible.
So do you feel like not only is it rep by rep, micro goals, but do you also feel like
macro goal, micro focus?
Micro focus.
Like BUDS is 180 days long. Macro goal. I'm going to get to the end of every single day before I make a decision. Micro focus. Or if that doesn't work, I'm going to make it to lunch and then reevaluate my shit.
Do you also think for you throughout your lifetime, like a key to that is always trying to go to a solution focused mindset as quickly as possible?
I mean, maybe some problems have complex solutions and you can kind of get lost in that headspace too. Like you have to pay attention to what's going on around you. And I've actually found the more I can, like there are some problems in life that have very complex solutions. And there are people who can solve those better by diving into the minutia and the details. I have found for me that I actually solve them better personally. And I'm not saying I'm solving them faster or better than somebody else, but I come to conclusions or solutions better if I actually let my mind wander a bit and just kind of work its way through it. And a lot of times I'll find, the conversations I have, like I'll be out doing jiu-jitsu, and the solution to a business problem that I wasn't thinking about in that role, like, oh shit,
pops up.
That's how I can solve that. And it has taken me a long time to realize I need to be able to do that. Because I'll get really frustrated if I'll sit down and I'm like, I have a piece of paper and a pencil. Here comes all the solutions. And then I sit there like, I don't know what the solution to this is.
I am the same way. And
I think most people are like that.
Yeah, I have to process some things.
And I have to process it at my speed. Now, if I'm driving and somebody slams on the brakes in front of me, I need to process that at a real-time speed. That's an easy problem, easy solution. The more complex ones, I have to give myself time, and I can't tell you the number of times that the answer and the most appropriate answer when I look back on it came at a time where I was actively, and by active, I mean I wasn't trying to force my thoughts towards the solution. I was actually doing the opposite. I was trying to find an activity where I was not actively looking for that solution, and it came to me.
Yeah, it's kind of like letting go a little bit.
Yeah, which, I mean, if you look at your brain like a computer processor, if it's a complex problem, I mean, wouldn't it need a little bit more time and a slightly wider optic to kind of crunch through the data? I don't know. In addition to not being a doctor, I don't know shit about the human brain. So